Well, welcome everybody. An online conference. We did hope to get together in Malaga, but unfortunately not enough people could travel. So we're doing it online. Nonetheless, we've still got a very full agenda to go through and there's a lot going on. I think if you take one message away from today, let it be that I'm firmly committed to ensuring that this organisation, buildingSMART International, it's your organisation and that it exists to respond to your needs. So everything that we're going to share with you today about how the processes and procedures have been modified is to that end, to fulfill your industry requirements. To my mind, this organisation, buildingSMART, remains the one place where the AECO industry and the software industries, software companies can collaborate under our common sense of purpose to improve the building and infrastructure environment. And it's fair to say that sometimes there is a conflict in interests regarding the industry requirements and the technical solutions. And some of that might be reflected in today's discussions, and that's fine. It's all part of doing business and it's all part of the continuous improvement. I remain committed to resolving those issues with you and helping everyone find the optimal way forwards. So welcome. The agenda for today looks like this. It's a 3-hour session. We will have a break. I will need a break. I'm sure everybody else will be grateful for one as well. So a quick introduction. Everybody may not know each other, but may know of each other. And by the end of this session, hopefully we've done sufficient to be able to connect you in terms of knowing who each other are, but without actually having a full introduction, because there won't be time for that. So an update from me on the process, the buildingSMART process, and how we're improving that. And then we're going to see some good examples of how domain program projects are now operating. So we're going to have an update from the airport domain, and we're going to have an update from the building domain, which I think you'll find interesting, and they set the benchmark really for how domain projects are going to work in the future. And then we'll have updates from each of the domains about what they're doing, what their plans are, current status, future plans, etc. And then we're going to have a summary of the professional certification practitioner module, a new module, one that's been much awaited, and as industry representatives, something that we will all find very interesting, I'm sure, about how to apply OpenBIM in our projects, our real projects, I should say, now in our workplaces or in our operations, running our facilities. And then we'll have some conclusions and wrap up from Clive at the end. There is a Miro board, which I'm going to ask Laura to put in the chat if she hasn't already. The Miro board reflects all of the content of today, and you can use it in the usual way to add comments, post-it notes, in order to generate a degree of collaboration on this online event. Raise your hand if you want to ask a question. I won't see it necessarily, because I've got 2 screens here, but I could really do with 3. But Laura or John or Yasheng or Sheila or Dan will no doubt flag it and interrupt me. I hope so, to let us know that you want to ask a question. Any questions so far? Anything I've missed? Laura, you're my conscience on these things. No? Okay.
No.
Fine, let's carry on. So the essence of this is really to, as it says here, enable the industry sectors to achieve productivity and sustainability requirements through OpenBIM. And we've been resetting how the direct domains operate, the parameters for the procedures, to allow improved outcomes that realise real business benefits. But we want to be able to help you improve the clarity, quality, predictability of these outputs as we're operating within the buildingSMART environment. So we are updating the BSI process. It's something that has been established. The BSI process was established right at the very outset of buildingSMART International's life, and it's been the governing procedures and principles by which standards have been created and delivered. We are resetting that because buildingSMART has reached a new level of maturity where Open BIM is being adopted into the workplaces. So this new process is going to be a common function-based delivery model for accelerator projects, domain projects, and grant projects. Grant projects there is if we get a grant from the European Union, for example. But what we're concerned about today particularly is domain projects. And we're also re-establishing the BSI process for strategic projects, and these are the development of the core standards, the development of new versions of IFC, for example, and the maintenance and update of the services that we offer, such as buildingSMART Data Dictionary. And it's about making sure that we have these repeatable management procedures and reporting toolkits for each function. So really just reinforcing what we've been doing for so long, but within the new environment of adopting Open BIM. A quick reminder of what the domains are. So domains are our industry experts that are sitting on steering committees that put together the roadmaps, the program plans for what your industry sector requires. We have 10 at the moment, and we have a very good representation today from each of the domains. So thank you very much for joining us. I want to say a few thank yous before we go any further. These people have stepped down from their positions in domain steering committees. In the case of Ken, Nick and Tiina, they are staying on the steering committee, but they have been chairing these committees for the last few years. Ken Endo from KM Corporation actually founded the construction domain back in 2016. He stays on the committee. But it's now being led by Jorge from Themex, who is a supplier to all of the people on the committee, and it's much more appropriate. Nick has been leading the regulatory room for a few years. He stays on the committee, and Tiina has been leading the infrastructure domain for a few years as well, and she stays on the committee. The person, it's my dog, postman just arrived. Not much I can do about it, sorry. Phil Jackson, who's been on the infrastructure domain steering committee for at least 9 years, and he has now decided to step down entirely from the committee and move into more of a retirement phase. And I had the opportunity to acknowledge Phil at our recent summit in Marrakesh, and we'll put a statement about Phil's commitment in the notes of this contributions in the notes of this meeting when we finish. And Trinidad and Bertrand from Schneider Electric have both now stood down from the electrical domain. They've got new roles within Schneider Electric. Schneider Electric remain fully committed to the electrical domain, but we're just in discussions about who their replacement will be. So thank you very much to all those people for their contributions over the last few years. At the July conference, there were some questions that emerged from the conversations we had and from the Miro board. One of them was we need more open BIM education if we're going to apply it effectively in our workplaces. Absolutely, we do open BIM education at every single domain leaders conference, and we have been doing that since 2020. And today you're going to hear about the professional certification practitioner module. Hans and Marina are coming along to talk to us about that. We need a clear explanation of the overall governance and who's responsible for doing what. Yes, agreed. And that's something that we're going to be concentrating on today as well. The core standards need developing if we're going to achieve maximum benefit from Open BIM. IFC 5, for example, is much needed. Yes, it is. There's a lot of excitement about IFC 5. It was a big topic of conversation in Marrakesh. I have put a link in this presentation later on for you to look at some videos about it. Not in this meeting today, but another time. But yeah. How the domain portfolio is decided. Some seem very generic, whereas others are more sector specific. That is true. Some are historic, the building and infrastructure domains, for example, have been around for some time. There are newer domains such as the Maritime Domain. Don't forget, this organisation is industry-led. It's what you want. Having more domains is a way of getting more people from the industry into executive positions in order to steer the direction and put together the plans. What we're committed to is making sure that projects span across domains. So domains are not silos. I know it's often said, but we do a lot to make sure that there is a common understanding about what's going on. These conferences, for example, summits, other things, webinars, the blogs, etc. Many things that we do in order to make sure that everybody in this Building Smart organization knows what's going on in each other's domains. And then we've got tools such as the use case management service, which helps share that as well. So yeah, it's something we have to work at hard, but nonetheless, it's worth doing. And the last FAQ was, should the domains be assisting software vendors to understand systems development? Because we don't really think we're equipped to do so. And actually, no, that's fine. This is really a role for the implementers forum and the generally assembly of implementers. Not something we're going to be talking about today, but it is, a body that meets regularly and presents what they do. So yeah, hopefully that clears up a few things there. So regarding how the Building Smart process is now going to be working, I like to think of it as mass customization. In other words, getting greater efficiencies and still being able to produce bespoke outputs. But based on core standards. So the core standards, the generic standards, and the universal education modules from the PCert program, they're applicable to all sectors, as it says there. And these are created under the strategic projects, which are under the governance of the technical leadership and the compliance directorate. Around this are your sectors, your domains. And of course, sectors have bespoke requirements, and we are using in the domain projects now the robust core standards, which have been developed and will be continued to be developed in a really good quality way to meet the domain requirements. And I'm going to share with you how that works in the domains going forwards, and we will see some good examples from airport and building domain very shortly about how they're applying that as well. So a reminder of these open BIM workflows. So this is something we've been working towards for many years and is now much clearer. Starting off with requirements, any project or any operation, it starts off with some requirements. We use the IDS standard to capture those requirements and make them machine interpretable. The good old IFC core schema is there in order to provide the foundations. There is then the ability to review issues, communicate and update using the BCF standard, and of course OpenCDE for sharing all that information that's available, whether it be documents or systems or whatever it might be in the various open API forms. And then we have the Building Smart Data Dictionary service, which supports all that, and the validation service, which is able to then, check that your IFC files are correct and good quality. And that's, good for contract management and assurance and quality and all those sort of things. So supporting all that are our services. So the use case management service, very important for capturing requirements and then sharing outputs so that people know what's been done, and it reduces repetition of effort, as well as being really good at clarifying what's been done for other people to use and work off. The software certification, which has got two phases to it. It's either a consolidation of the validation service or a more bespoke assessment of specific use cases and to ensure the software is compliant and of good quality. On the right hand side there, we have the accelerator program, which is a one-to-one service that Building Smart is offering with our with particular clients who want to go through the whole of the open BIM workflow or part of the open BIM workflow on particular aspects of their operations. And then we have the professional certification program, which is about education, developing the workforce, helping us all understand a bit better what is needed and what's going on.
Richard?
Yeah.
Nick's got his hand up.
Nick.
And I assume you would rather come to questions as they occur.
I would, yeah, please. Thanks, Dan.
Just to say, I think it's a shame that these diagrams are missing out the IDM, because it's the IDM is the only bit of buildingSMART that will get into the boardroom.
Yeah,
The process diagrams, the overview. And if we don't mention it, then our offering will sound like a technical solution all the time rather than being a strategic solution.
yeah, okay. No, that's a good point, Nick. And no, thanks for raising it. I think that's something that I'll discuss back in the office about how we can or why it's not there actually. Because yes, the IDM is really it's like a process map as I would understand it, you know, sort of thing that I understand actually, rather than computer software speak. Yeah, okay, good point. Captured, noted. So just sharing that Evandro's put a blog out recently, which is very popular. It's on our website. It's on the LinkedIn. I encourage you to read it. It's probably about a 3-minute read. But where we're focused on in the domains, in the domain projects now, is this early stage, capturing requirements and putting them through the IDS and the BSDD in order to get the access that you're going to require into interoperable software. So the domain projects have now been recategorized into 4 themes. First one, providing sector-focused knowledge and guidance on the use of OpenBIM. So these are the industry reports. We've had 2 industry reports published in the last week. One is guidance for electrical networks, and the other is guidance for regulators, both receiving good acclaim. I encourage you to go and find them on our library, and we'll put links to them when we send out these presentations. The next one is the big one, ensuring the OpenBIM workflow addresses the sector requirements. And then the third one is trusting the OpenBIM workflow outputs for the sector. It's about using validation service. And then the last one is anything else that doesn't fall into the first 3 categories. So wider sector-based innovations. So just briefly then, the first one looks like this. So the business objectives would be to improve knowledge and understanding of OpenBIM capabilities. And the outputs would be an industry paper, which you see on the far right there. You know, how we do that is within the domain, either the steering committee or a working group that you've appointed will consolidate the industry requirements and write a report, which is then validated before it's published. This is the big one, the theme 2, which is addressing the sector requirements. So the business objectives are to ensure that properties relevant to your sector are supported through the OpenBIM workflow. Now, in terms of what then happens, it would be a question of consolidating those industry requirements again, probably putting them through IDS to make the machine interpretable, and almost certainly putting them into the buildingSMART data dictionary so that they then flow through into IFC, which then means they flow through into the softwares that are based on IFC. So that's what that one looks like, and we'll see some examples, as I say, of how that's being done. And I won't dwell any further on this at the moment, to read it all the way through. You get the idea that there's some requirements and some outputs, and this is the basis of most of the domain projects that will be done in the future. And we'll be going through this in more detail as project plans get developed in our domain meetings. And of course, you will have access to this presentation. It will be published at the fullness of time. This next one, theme 3, is about improving the quality and the trust of those data exchanges. And this is really about defining requirements for additional validation rules, or developing detailed rules in accordance with the GitHub requirements. So this will be working with the technical leadership team, or more to the point, putting forward proposals to the technical leadership team for improvement to the validation service. And then the fourth one is anything else we've not thought of. The good old catch-all. All right. So just to reinforce that, this is a very simple diagram that we've been testing out. There are more accurate technical diagrams, which I won't share today, but which one of Yo Sheng or one of my other technical colleagues can do with you at another time. But I think most of you understand this very well anyway. You have our core schema, and within the schema there are predefined classes and properties, which is indicated by a little dot there. And of course, lots of software companies now have the IFC schema in their software, and therefore that software is interoperable. The buildingSMART data dictionary is this collection of interconnected data dictionaries with definitions of terms to describe the built environment. In there is the IFC 4.3 library, for example. Some of our colleagues and members have put their own library of parts in here. There is the airport entities library in here now as well. And what this does is it links to a particular predefined class in IFC, and then additional properties, user-defined properties, can be put in through a domain project or through a third party into the buildingSMART data dictionary, which then links through to the IFC schema, which then links through to interoperable software, which then gives you the benefit that you require for those particular entities in your workplace. In a domain project, it might be that when the consolidation assessment takes place, when the assessment of requirements takes place, and it's all been assessed and you've understood what's required, it may be there are certain entities that are not predefined in the IFC schema. In that case, there is a route to put the requirements through to the technical directorate, which in time will be developed when the funding and the time is right to improve the IFC schema. So that route still exists. And then just quickly to say that there are some really good definitions that have been done now, procedures for how to use the BSDD, which are on our website. There is also a really good definition for how to use IDS, and the link for doing the proposals in GitHub for improvement of the IFC is also available as well. And again, I'll make all this available afterwards. The thing that's improved as well is the governance. So the approval to proceed and complete has been simplified. Now I've actually put this into 3 diagrams because we all see things differently and understand things differently. So let's see how this goes in terms of an explanation. When a project is now proposed, what used to happen is for the development of standard, it used to have to go to various levels of authorization and then go to voting because it was for an international standard. In a domain project, what you're not doing in development of international standards now, we're doing responses to industry requirements. Therefore, we can simplify the procedure for approval. So the domain steering committee has a big part to play in improving a project plan. And the project plan is in 2 halves. There's a draft project plan to get the momentum and get interest. And then there's the final project plan, which is the thing that will then be followed and delivered, as the project progresses. So to start with, domain steering committee and the program management office review it. And the program management office is me, it's my colleagues who support the domains, and we just make sure that we're satisfied as well that it's going to fit one of those 4 themes and that it suits the technical roadmap. So it goes through, we consult with the Standards Committee executive now, and we inform the Standards Committee. The Standards Committee are the representatives of all of our members. And then at the completion stage, the same happens. So in terms of showing this as a slightly different diagram, we have the domains, the executive pro bono committees over here. We have the domain projects, and then we have the various people that approve the project as it goes through the process. I said I was trying it in 3 different ways, so that might work for some people. And then this is the 3rd way. So we start with the draft project plan, the domain steering committee agree it, make sure it's aligned, it fits one of the 4 themes, the standards committee are consulted, and the standards committee executive are consulted, the standards committee are informed, and the project then develops a final project plan. The same happens again, and then it starts. So see how that works. I hit that one. And then in terms of the template for project plans, we've now improved this as well. So this is now one document. We're calling it a draft project plan rather than an activity proposal, mainly because, well, not mainly for any reason, but AP was getting confused with accelerated projects. So it's a draft project plan, which is a much better way of expressing the fact that it's not going to be perfect at that stage, but it's there to prime the pump. So it shouldn't be open to too much criticism at the draft project plan stage. And in the draft project plan, you will have these aspects here, which is, you know, the requirements, what's the motivation for doing it, the scope and objectives, and the proposed deliverables. When the time is right for the final project plan, there is the next stages or the next few pages of the document, which then say, you know, what are the resources and skills required, where's the funding coming from, what's the milestones, etc. What's the delivery package? So that is going to be a lot better as well. And then just to really give the illustration between the difference between a strategic project and a domain project, these are the current strategic project proposals. So the services improvement, as you see there, the standards development, IFC 4.4, IFC 5, and the training and education proposals. And then current domain project proposals look like this. This isn't the full list, it's an example, but you can see that these are very industry specific and they're being built, delivered on the core standards. So there's that way around. Now there's also an opportunity actually to take some of the funding from the domain projects and put those, take some of that funding for the development of these core standards, and that way you get this virtuous circle of strength to respond to it all. The other thing that we're doing as well is, now that we've got more staff team, there is opportunity for using some of our staff team who are expert project managers and who are also good technical people to deliver some of the projects on behalf of the industry. So there's efficiencies that are coming through in that as well. So that was a quick update from me. Any questions at this stage? Can anybody see any hands raised? Okay, very good. All right, so I now want to hand over to Arisca. Gerard isn't here, I don't think, is he, Arisca? So it's going to be you doing a solo version. Yep. Okay. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And then you can share yours. You suffering?
A little bit, but that's okay. It's online. So
turning out. We'll see how you are at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. 8 p.m. tomorrow night.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for having me present this. I was asked to just show a little bit what we have done so far on the airport entities project from the airport domain. So I just grabbed a few slides that we've been presenting over the last couple of years while we've been working on the airport entities project. Why the airport entities project? I think it's quite clear for most people that are currently present in this session, but for now, for airport specific objects, there is just not a clear and consistent schema. So there's a lot of discussions during projects on what entities to use from the schema when we're looking at airport specific objects. And so with this project, we're really focusing on creating a clear agreement within the airport community so that we can actually work with the parts of the IFC schema. And today, doing that through the buildingSMART data dictionary, so that we're really focusing on reducing redundancies and inconsistencies and kind of getting all of those discussions that are currently happening during projects out of the scope so that we can move forward a lot quicker. So what have we done so far? We kind of took over the project, I think right around COVID. So back in 2020, Alex Warp was the person who kind of started all of this, more focusing on extending the schema back then. Now the focus is way more on adding this to the buildingSMART data dictionary. But back in 2020, we basically got a few organizations together. So we had Auckland Airport, China Aviation University, Finavia, NACO Royal Haskoning, and then Schiphol Airport and Vienna Airport. And we kind of like took all of those lists of airport-specific objects and combined them to see if there was any overlap between entities or objects. So we took the duplicates out, and we kind of ended up with one final list of airport-specific objects, which obviously is not a list that is final, but it was a start of what we used to continue the project on. So we categorized the airport objects in different categories, and the example that you see here is the baggage handling system. And we mapped it to IFC 4.3. And back then, we actually introduced some user-defined types if it was needed. Today, after having some discussions with Arthur, we're actually looking into creating classes within the buildingSMART data dictionary. But it's important to mention the user-defined types because it was part of the surveys that went out. And we added some images for better interpretation. So for example, here we have the check-in conveyor. We added an image of the check-in conveyor. You see a mapping to IFC 4.3, the predefined type for the check-in conveyor, and category was baggage handling system. So to kind of give you an idea, here's just some examples of airport objects without a clear mapping. And even here, a few of them, you can ask yourself if they're really airport specific. I think the de-icing system is pretty airport specific, but an automated border control reader, they're very important, obviously, for airports, but I think you can also find them at ports or at international train stations. But we did conclude that they were necessary for us, and these are the objects that are currently causing a lot of discussions in projects and in maintenance and the mapping that should be used. So we did include them in our project. Same goes for the security lanes, automated check-in, passenger bridge. Those are just a few examples to kind of give people an idea of what we're talking about. The workflow that we took is, like I said, we created the different categories. So we have the baggage handling system, airport-specific security systems, and passenger control, navigate and meteorological equipment, civil and airfields, and the terminal. We kind of categorized all of those different objects in those different categories and created different surveys out of them. And in the survey for each category, we included the image. We asked if people agreed with the naming of the object. Then we asked if they agreed with the mapping to IFC. And if they did not agree for both of those questions, then what would they propose? And we kind of did that for each object. And then at the end of the survey, we just asked some general questions like, are any entities or any objects missing? Basically just some very standard questions to get some more information from their expertise. We mapped it to IFC4, and then the plan is to add it to the buildingSMART data dictionary, which we've also done so far, and kind of looking ahead of also using it for the creation of an IDS. You see the properties in there as well. It's kind of new. I think we added it since the Marrakesh summit because we kind of started with the baggage handling system surveys, and we went through all of the feedback that we received, and we kind of came to the conclusion that properties might be needed, which I think is in the next slide. So to kind of focus on the baggage handling survey, we did get a lot of responses. We got 65 responses in different languages. The survey went out in different languages, so that kind of made it a little bit more accessible for people to respond. But some of the challenges here is the properties. So we kind of came to the conclusion, like a lot of people came back to us and told us like, hey, we have a parallel shoot and we have a spiral shoot. So we kind of had the discussion, should those be two different objects, or should we introduce one object, shoot, and then create a property with the shoot type, whether it's parallel or spiral. And so for the different baggage objects, there were a few proposed properties that came up. So the belt direction, the belt speeds, the slope, the dimensions, whether it's powered, true or false. So we're kind of going through this and currently talking to baggage handling specialists to kind of get more information about this to create a baggage, or to create an airport domain property set. Another challenge that we kind of ran into based on the results was that there are different types of handling systems. So we have to kind of figure out how to deal with that. And again, objects that are not airport specific, but are very important for airports. A very simple ladder or stairs, a pusher or a stacker. Those are all some examples that are not airport specific. So should they be part of the project? Should we exclude them? Should we talk to the other domains to kind of come to a conclusion of how to use these? So those are kind of questions that we still need answered moving forward. If you joined the session in Marrakesh, we also showed how the workflow could be used in practice. I did not include the video because it's Mike Dos Santos, his specialty, so he can explain it, but you can rewatch the recordings. But basically, he goes through the whole OpenBIM workflow with some examples from Revit, the buildingSMART data dictionary plugin that NACO created, and we kind of showed how it could be put into practice and kind of made it work. So that was very exciting, using the entities project as an example, focusing on baggage handling. So looking ahead, what is next moving forward? So we have to finish the other survey results and add this to the buildingSMART data dictionary. We did kind of came to the conclusion that it's taking a long time. Like I said, we started in 2020. I think in 2021, we closed the survey. And ever since, we've been going through the survey results. But a lot of the work that's been done is in kind. So not everyone can always join the sessions to go through the results. Sometimes we discuss different topics. So in order to move a little bit quicker, we decided we just set some ground rules. If 75% of the working group members are present, we're going to go through the results, and if 75% of this feedback agrees, then we're just going to go ahead and add it to the buildingSMART data dictionary, and then use the request for change option in the buildingSMART data dictionary for people to give us feedback, because otherwise we have to recreate another survey based on all of the feedback, wait on people to respond to that, and it's just going to take too long. So we just want to add it to the buildingSMART data dictionary, make it usable. We showed with the workflow that it can be used in practice, and then updating or basically improving the entities through the request for change availability in the buildingSMART data dictionary. We're also looking at the properties, as mentioned. We're validating the baggage handling systems with some specialists. So Van der Lande is a very big specialist within the market. So we have some meetings set up with them. Another one that kind of came up from the survey results is that we also made some mistakes. So we grabbed the ABC reader as a example, and we kind of came to the conclusion that we were not very clear with what we meant with an ABC reader, because the image was not an ABC reader. So we kind of learned from that as well, focusing a little bit more on adding clear definitions, tags, better images of those airport-specific objects to the buildingSMART data dictionary. And with tags, it could be synonyms, or some people propose different naming that they use at their airports, still talking about the same thing. So I think if you're familiar with the BSCD, you can still search on it and still come to the same object or entity within the buildingSMART data dictionary or class. We're looking at getting more people involved. An example is collaborate a little bit closer with the US airport chapter, but also getting more people on board, which is slowly happening. So that's exciting to get more knowledge and collaborate with them to move the project a little bit faster. We're always looking for funding, as probably everyone here is, but that way we can have a project leader or project manager on it kind of help us with that part. And last but not least is translating it back to the entire built environment. So come up with a clear story, clear way of working so that other airports will join, will help, and will start using this as well. That's all I have. Any questions?
Yeah, thanks, Arisca. That's fantastic. Any questions for Arisca? I'll ask one then to everybody. Can you see the direct correlation or the opportunities for the direct correlation between what the airport domain have been doing and what your domains intend to do on some of the specific requirements that are being introduced there? Okay. All right. Well, look, if you do have questions or if you do have comments to make, stick them in the Miro board. That's what it's there for. We will be reviewing it. It will be a live document that we will keep referring to after this meeting is finished. Thank you, Arisca. Arisca, will you be doing an update about the airport domain in the next section, or is that it now for you?
No, I'll stick around for that and then leaving after.
Okay, so I'm just getting the timings right. I'm now going to ask Asim and Pete to give us an update on the occupant movement analysis. You're there. Hi, Pete.
Hi,
welcome
Richard.
from New Zealand. Are you in New Zealand?
I am, yes, for a
Yeah.
change. Yes. Yeah, all good, all good.
All right.
Okay.
And
So,
Asim is here from the University of Greenwich as well. So over to
yeah,
you.
and we're going to try to get Peter to hop on towards the end of this as well. So we'll
People
see how it
on.
goes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
no problem. Okay. So, can you see my screen now, Peter? Richard?
Yes, that's nice and clear. Thank you.
Okay. Cool.
See your screen.
Great. So, welcome everybody to this overview of the start-to-end description of the Occupant Movement Analysis project. And we are all the way working towards fulfilling the aims of the OpenBIM-based digital workflows through the latest processes required for developing an IDS to achieve that aim, essentially. And presenting today, it's myself, Peter Thompson, University of Canterbury, with both Asim Siddiqui and Peter Lawrence from the University of Greenwich. So today we're going to be covering a quick overview of just why we started this project. Then we'll be taking you through very quickly overview step by step of what we did in this project, summary and review of the processes. We had two phases. Phase one, where we looked at the process maps, working with practitioners and other personas to define the exchange requirements in the project and come up with a list of initial variables. Phase two, where we refined those requirements, developed some IDSs, some sample models, and tested the whole combination together. And then finally, after a few years of this, start to end work, submitting the final report, what the overall outcomes are, and also touching on future work and what's next. Ultimately, what's next is the fire safety engineering IDS, which Richard touched upon before. Okay, so our main motivation for this project came in several different forms. One of them was expressed in the Hackett report. Unfortunately, the Grenfell Tower fire is fairly infamous, and several post-disaster analysis reports have come out. The Hackett report was one of the first and the most important ones. A key part of that was using the term golden thread of information to express fulfilling the needs of completing data, highlighting the life safety implications of not fulfilling those data, and it did recommend a BIM-based approach for new build buildings. Another example of requirements in terms of data for life safety and fire safety would be the new Berlin airport, which went 10 years late, 3 times over budget, a huge number of defects. Many of those were fire safety issues, which weren't resolved in the design process due to data inaccuracies and conflicts. And also the International Fire Safety Standards Coalition, which is a consortium mostly of industry practitioners, but also some regulators and other organizations. They called for a decade of action to upgrade, modernize, bring up to date the fire safety engineering profession, and a part of that was to develop a new framework to support both audits, compliance checks, and global standards and data. So quite a big push from industry, government, and a number of areas really trying to improve fire safety engineering. And that overall scope of fire safety engineering was our big push at the start of the project. Fire, smoke, evacuation, egress, circulation, regulatory calculations, all of those things. Well, they're a very wide project area, and ultimately we separated them into 2 to make them somewhat more achievable chunks. And those 2 sibling related projects became the Occupant Movement Analysis project and the complementary one of fire safety engineering. And it's the Occupant Movement Analysis which we're covering today. Quick shout out to the team which has been with us for a few years to deliver this project. Asim and Peter at University Greenwich and myself have been in pretty much every meeting during the course of it, but many of these others have given up their time. Legion, Thunderhead Engineering, UCrowds, Accurate in Germany. Jimmy Abdulanin from Technical University was of Munich was the lead in the first phase. Steve Gwynn, Movement Strategies and GHD, John at Cowie, Timo, Jarno, and also Enrico as well. So a globally distributed team over a few years contributed towards the project. So first of all, phase 1, the early half of the project, which Jimmy led, essentially consisted of working with industry to develop some process maps for workflows and ultimately the first pass of the exchange requirements feeding into the formation of the data. So phase 1, coming up with these process maps. Essentially, we looked at 3 workflows: evacuation analysis, both for international requirements and the Royal Institution of British Architects, and also some circulation analysis, general circulation in buildings. These workflows look fairly complicated. They essentially just express personas and what each persona does, looking at the differences. Looking at the differences of these personas, the building blocks, the logic gates, and ultimately getting to the completion of their workflow. And we looked at everything from the simulation experts, the modelers, and also architects and BIM modelers in other circumstances. So quite exhaustive processes. Distilling those process maps down became essentially was expressed in the form of lists. In this case, for example, stairs, the number of risers, tread depths, number of treads, lifts or elevators, all of the parameters for the movement and which of the standard sort of software vendors on the marketplace use those parameters, matching all those things up, and then moving walkways or travelators as well. There's just 3 examples, but ultimately we use the process maps working with industry to form these initial lists of parameters as the initial exchange requirements. And at that point, I'm going to hand over to Asim to cover phase 2.
Thanks, Pete. So I'm going to go through some of the key aspects of phase 2. For example, we used the requirements covered in phase 1 and we refined them. And then based on that, we produced IDS files and we used sample models to test them. Next slide, please. So I'll use this diagram where we got a number of steps to highlight some of the things we did as far as the workflow is concerned, even though our main focus was on first 3 steps, which was to create a model, use a sample model, export the sample model, and then check that model with IDS. But our wider interest was in two-way data flow. So we expanded the work on this project beyond the initial scope, and we included other steps. For example, importing IDS checked IFC file in a pedestrian modeling tool, setting up and running simulations, exporting results, use BCF to exchange these results, initial results, and also capturing summary information in a new property added to IFC project. So it's not just one-way flow, but two-way flow, because we think it's quite important to capture some of the information directly in the model. And again, using IDS to check those output, the output data. And finally, when we have the IFC file, updated IFC file, then we can share that IFC file with the authorities. So that was the general plan. Now, I'm not going to cover all the steps because of the time constraint, but I'm going to highlight some of the key points, some of the key things we picked up while working on this workflow. So, for example, we used a sample model, which was created by an MSc student, Nazim Yaku, and Pete supervised that project. So he created this hotel model in Revit 2022, and it was for IFC 2x3. But it didn't have all the entities we needed, not all the property sets and properties, so it was enriched, and Pete worked on it and added new entities and their properties. For example, we identified properties which are existing in the IFC 4x3 and some new ones, and it was developed in Revit 2025 and for IFC 4x3. Next slide, please. So here is one example which I think is quite interesting, is using lifts or elevators, because the more complicated one and more interesting one to show. So for lifts, we again, like doors and other entities, we identified properties which are relevant. We came up with some new properties as well, for example, loading area, storage serve, which are relevant for movement of people. So that's the straightforward thing, but the more complicated part was to understanding the spatial connection and how lift is related to other elements. For example, people coming in and moving out from lifts, and so how we can understand these relationships. Next slide. So there were a number of options available for us to capture this information. For example, using IFC zone, IFC spatial zone, and we also have IFC build system, which was introduced in IFC 4x3 to replace IFC building system. And in theory, IFC build system come across as the ideal solution, but we couldn't find any worked examples. So in the end, we used IFC zone. So having some further information about recommended approach and worked examples could really help in the future. Next slide. So once we have the model set up, it was exported into IFC format. I'm not going to go through into those details, but I'll highlight some of the things we did for IDS. So we created an Excel file, captured all the properties, and then buildingSMART's technical team helped us to translate that into an XML IDS file. It's compatible with IDS 1 and IFC 4x3. And we used the online auditing service provided by BSI to audit this file, check the IDS file structure. Next click. And then after that, we checked this IDS file using a tool. So next slide, please. So we used different tools. So initially we were using BIMWorks, and we tried other tools that support IDS. But in the end, we settled for Blender BIM, which is now called Bonsai. And it's quite a useful tool to check IFC against an IDS file. It provides an HTML file, and so if there are any problems, it will highlight those problems, allow you to fix those problems. And in our case, once we fix the problem, the model passed the check, and so all the properties we included in the IFC file were okay. Next slide, please. So these were the three main steps as far as the scope of this project is concerned, but we did other things. For example, how we can import this information in a pedestrian modeling tool. And there are two ways: simple extraction using the elements and their properties. But the other one, which we used in the end, was using space boundaries. So it allows you to understand the connection between different entities. And again, there are pros and cons, but we went for this this approach. Next slide, please. So once the data is imported in a pedestrian modeling tool, we can set up population information, scenarios, identified scenarios, and so on, run simulation and export data. So for example, data was exported in JSON format, but there are other formats. And the idea was you can share this information with stakeholders, understand whether they are okay with the results and so on. And once it's finalized, we can capture summary information. Next slide. So to capture this summary information, we identified some properties, a new property set, which we attached with IFC project. So for example, the key summary information linked to external files. And we wanted more sophisticated solution, and we wanted to use list, but even though these things are supported in IFC schema, in terms of implementation, we found several limitations. So we went for a very, very simple solution in the end, just including a link to an external file, which contains all the other files, zip file containing links to other files. But the idea was we have a list of files containing information about each scenario. So depending on the support from different software tools, it can be made more sophisticated. Next slide, please. So that was a very quick overview of phase 2. And now Peter is going to talk about the submission, and he'll highlight some of the issues and challenges we face. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm just going to go over the closure of this presentation. So if we move on to the next slide now, Pete. So what we've achieved so far, so we've done a number of deliverables. So we delivered a number of use cases. So we delivered use cases for the UK case and for international cases. We delivered an industrial insight report that we published back in March this year. We've generated a large amount of data dictionary information, and on data requirements, so about 100 parameters there related to occupant movement analysis. We've generated 2 IDSs to complete our open BIM digital workflow, so for input and output requirements to capture the data. And we've just submitted our occupant movement analysis project report, which we are rating feedback on. Next slide, please. So as a summary, the key challenges that we found during the project was we were trying to push the boundaries. We were using the latest standards. So IDS 1's only just been released, I think, back in March. IFC 4 has just recently been properly approved and finalized. And that meant many of the software tools didn't support these new standards fully, and they hadn't been certified. So this created a number of issues along the way as we worked with this, generating our IFC4 model. We had some issues developing custom properties in the tools, so we required a large number of custom properties for occupant movement analysis. And when the model was created, there were some issues within the IFC4 schema that was outputted, for instance, by Revit, that needed to be checked and addressed, which resulted in us sometimes resorting to manual ways of editing the IFC file in, for instance, a text editor to correct those mistakes, or to fix export custom properties. The case with the elevator case that Asim highlighted, we actually tested out systems, we tested out the built system using IFC OpenShell in Python script to see if we could use that. But in the end, we resorted to using the zone base because that's what could be used within Revit, because Revit wouldn't support the latest built system of IFC spatial system specifications. Also new things like IFC property list values. So we wanted to associate a large number of simulation files with some results in the IFC file. But the IFC property list value for property entities wasn't fully supported as yet in many of the tools. We started to use BCF. The limitations we found with BCF is we couldn't tag on simulation data or simulation files. So BCF wouldn't allow you to attach files, but a workaround to that was to add a link into the description field to say the document or the data for these simulations could be tagged there. And as Sim mentioned, what would have been good was some worked examples or best practice. So for instance, how best to define lifts, how best to define escalators. On the GitHub area, it's got all the syntactical and semantic rules for the various IFC entities, but no indication what's the best practice, which would be good to have, because the fact you could do it in IFC doesn't necessarily mean that's the right way of doing it. And especially if you've got IFC zone, IFC built systems, IFC spatial systems, selecting which one to use for your particular entity is a challenge. So it would be good to have some guidance or best practice there. Okay, next click. So the key highlights from that project are we achieved a full open BIM design digital work loop, and we have 100 new properties we associate with that. So this covers everything from setting up your model to running your simulations and capturing that data, because we wanted to do, as the Hackett report recommended, capturing information that was lost. We've worked on many fire safety projects, and often the case is that information has been lost. And if you want to later go back and find that information, it's difficult to locate or find the correct information at the time. The expert panel, we must thank them for giving guidance and in-kind help. We had academic and industrial partners all working as a team, which is a great mix of people to work on a project, all giving their time in hand, in kind, which demonstrates how important this work is, because people are willing to give up their time to complete this, because it's an important aspect related to fire safety and occupant movement analysis. We also like to thank the BSI committee for their help, especially Richard, John, Lee and Merbeck, and the Building Domain Steering Committee, the BSI technical team, and others who helped along the way. And follow on from this work, we're also promoting this work through conferences, both academic and industrial conferences and professional conferences. We put the information for the ISO committees. So we're putting forward for the fire and behaviour standards. And we're also promoting through workshops, which we then go around and promote at various industry companies. Next slide. Very quickly, as we just said, I've already covered the occupant movement analysis and we published a report. We got the next follow-on project is moving on to the fire safety engineering IDS, where we've submitted a draft proposal or a draft initial activity proposal, which we're now awaiting approval from the Building Domain Steering Committee, and we're waiting for the go-ahead for that. And we plan to, next click, complete follow-on projects, because occupant movement and fire safety are not restricted to just buildings. we've got interest in infrastructures because we look at large circulation spaces like Olympic parks, or in our case, evacuation scenarios from regions within towns and cities. We do simulations on ships and airplanes, so we're looking at maritime and airport domains, and also the railway domains as well, because again, evacuation from and fire safety on railway carriages are very important. And we're already looking for further partners for the infrastructure project. So next slide. This is just a quick overview of the team we're putting together for the fire safety engineering. The key partners for this will be OFR Consultancy, University of Greenwich, and University of Canterbury. Again, it's going to be another international team covering in various different countries. Next slide. So this brings me to the end of the presentation. I'd just like to mention that a longer presentation going into much more detail was given in Marrakesh that goes through all the issues and the challenges and how we address them. That can be found in the Building Summit, buildingSMART International YouTube channel, and there's a link there. I need to thank the sponsors, which were the University of Greenwich, University of Canterbury, Technical University of Munich, Bruns, the Fire Emergencies of New Zealand, Building Innovation Partnership, FRG, GDH, Federal Ministry of Transport in Germany, and the M Fund, which is the Digital Mobility Group in Germany as well, and of course GDH. Thank you.
Peter, thank you. So yeah, Pete, Asim, thank you very much. I mean, another exemplar project. There's got to be questions for this one. I noted, we'll wait for hands to go up. I noted that you were saying that it would be very helpful to have best practice on how to define elevators. So product domain, take note. And then of course, yes, it's very applicable to other domains. So railway domain, as you'll hear shortly, I've got a project underway, or we'll have a project underway on stations. And of course, they're big passenger interchanges. We have a look at that.
Well, stations are good examples. The same with the airport is ticket barriers and those types of barriers. And the support within IFC is a bit limited as far as them concerned. It seemed to be looking more like boom barriers and other types of gates and things, but not the sort of furniture we were looking for in stations.
Okay. I see Jorge from Themex and the construction domain has a question. Jorge?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. No, thanks for the presentation. Just out of curiosity, this occupancy analysis, movement analysis, can imagine it would be far more complicated to do during construction, but do you think have you had the experience or you have checked about this? Or because I think, I don't know, a project, maybe, I don't know, 2 years or during construction, and for the safety of occupants during these stages, it might be possible, or maybe it's too ambitious.
So are you looking at buildings for safety during construction projects? Because we've already been working with Maze in the UK, developing ways to look at safety during the actual construction phase.
Okay.
At the moment, that hasn't involved BIM, but that does involve, you have to have updates of how the building is evolving over time and look at the special hazards on a building site. So that's a different project we've been involved in.
Okay.
If you're talking about during the actual construction phase.
Yes, during the actual construction, yes.
Yeah, so yeah, I can dig out some publications that we got related to occupant safety during actual construction phase, but that's not been incorporated in this process.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think you need to be, that's more to do with the dynamic digital twin, and having a digital twin as the building evolves would be useful. And yes, that is possible to do the occupant movement analysis during that.
Okay. Thank you. Happy to you have some publications or some documents that may share, I would appreciate.
Yes, I will dig those out.
So, Jorge, that's something.
Thank you.
Perhaps, Jorge, maybe that's something that you and our colleagues in the construction domain can think about, whether it wants to be an activity from the construction domain roadmap. Something to think about, anyway. Any other questions?
From my side, Konstantinos Kesoulis, construction domain. Do you have used use case management while you did all the use cases to document them, to structure them, or how you set up the use cases?
Yeah, we used the buildingSMART use case management system. So we created 3 process maps, and we used the use case management system to publish them.
Okay, so they can be found there. Perfect.
Yep. We can, I mean, the use case management system now, you can actually attach IFC files, you can attach the IDS file, you can attach all sorts of information. So yeah, we created process maps, and we provide some description and publish them through the use case management system.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen. If any of you do have questions about either the airport entities project or the occupant analysis fire safety project, please get in touch. You can either do that through me, through John, or through Laura, or directly to the people concerned if you know their email addresses. But yeah, thanks again.
Thanks.
Okay, so we now move on to the next phase of the conference, which is an update from the domains. We've asked each of the domain chairs and their teams to give an update on what has been achieved recently, what the current activities are and what the future plans are. We've just heard from Airport, as you on their main topic, but Arisca, are you going to give another update to us?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Do you need the screen?
Yep, I'll take over the screen. Can you see the screen?
We do, yes, thank you.
Okay. A recap on the airport domain this last year and kind of looking ahead. A big one is Guangdong Airport Authority joining. They're official members of buildingSMART International. They've been joining the sessions from the airport domain and mentioned that they will be actively engaged in the related work from the airport domain working group. So hopefully that will help us grow as not just the airport entities project, but also just the airport domain in general. Not going, sorry. Then the airport project update. Well, you guys just heard an update, but you know the airport objects without a clear IFC mapping that we are currently working on. But to kind of give a short summary, basically the next steps is to enhance the understanding of airport entities by adding better descriptions and if possible photos to each entity within the airport domain. We still want users to be involved and engaged so they can give feedback through the request for change function in the buildingSMART data dictionary. That way we don't have to create new surveys or kind of avoid the discussions that might come from it, causing obviously a lot of time. So we kind of want to make progress. And the outcome of that will obviously streamline the process of integrating airport entities into the buildingSMART data dictionaries and being able to use that workflow to start using it in practice. The takeaway of that was, again, here below you see the workflow. To the right, you see Schiphol Airport, kind of showing that airports are not that specific. We have buildings, we have infrastructure. There's just a few entities that are very airport specific, and even then we can discuss whether they are airport specific. But for now, the conclusion of the Airport Entities project that we presented in Marrakesh is that the workflow enables us to offer asset information in a digital, structured, transparent, and accessible way for current and future use. Kind of looking ahead, we had a closed session in Marrakesh to kind of see how we can keep people motivated and get more people involved. So we agreed that we are going to be looking at different use cases anywhere within the asset lifecycle. So we want to create a use case, define what the primary goal or problem is, the solution that is intended to address that particular problem, what stakeholders or end users are involved, so what is their role within the process, what specific tasks or actions are needed to be performed to achieve their objectives, kind of describe key success criteria or outcomes that would indicate whether the use case is successful or not. And the last one should actually be the first one, but for each use case, we kind of want to map it within the life cycle where that use case is applicable. And we kind of came with the idea of creating like this bracelets and collecting different chains that represent those use cases to kind of make it more alive for people. They can recognize it and hopefully help us work on those use cases and kind of promote the usage of OpenBIM within the aviation community. So we're currently working on this as we speak. We have a deadline for next week, I think, that people would collect different use cases from their organization and then kind of use that to move forward. That's kind of what we will be doing next year.
Bravo. Thanks, Arisca. And there are the domain steering committee members for the airport steering committee, including our two new colleagues from Guangdong Airport Authority. So I extend my welcome to you as well. The building domain is giving us a video update, which I will just flick to now. And
hi, I'm David Ivey, co-chair of the building domain, along with Roef. We wanted to talk to you a little bit today about what's been happening in the building domain over the last couple of summits. I'm going to spend my time looking at a few slides of the types of sessions that we have been having some success with. And then Rob is going to talk a little bit about the use case management tool, which the building domain is going to look to use more of in the future and how managing our projects. So without further ado, let me switch over to a screen here and show you a few slides. So one of the first things that I wanted to talk about were the two sessions that we did, one in Valencia and one in Marrakesh, that were, let's say, performative. We basically took a small project and we walked our audience through that project from the very inception of, oh, I would like to do some things to a building, through all the IFC processes to some conclusion and end. In this particular instance, we were looking at unlocking building and energy efficiency. In the latter, in Marrakesh, we were looking at doing some updates to a building to also increase energy efficiency, in this case with some insulation and lighting and some other things. The interesting thing I think about the sessions is the fact that they have different speaking parts for it. In this instance, oh, I'm sorry, slide please. It's a hands-on workshop, interactive role play. basically starting with the building authority releases requirements to municipality. I'm not going to read through all of these, but we go through the steps, right, of procuring experts, talking with the building physicist, looking with an architect and figuring out what the homeowner needs. There's Mirbeck, Nick Nesbitt, and Jan Anders playing their specific parts for our building. And I bring this up mainly as a way to say that I think it's really important that we do these type of presentations in our domains. And I know there was a game in Marrakesh that was very, very popular. But I'm a firm believer that anything that we can do that is hands-on, that shows people how the buildingSMART process works, how to work with the tools that we have, how to work with the formats that we have, how they integrate into the tools that you might be using in your workflows, when and where they happen. And Mirbeck is really good about breaking down the technical details and walking through step by step a process in a specific tool. And I think those are immensely helpful. Not that the other types of sessions are not helpful when we're talking about specific tools or formats, schemas, the nuts and bolts of things that make IFC go. Those are very important as well, but I think these are also very important. I also think another important thing to have, excuse me, is the white papers related to a specific project, the case studies, case examples. Those are highly, highly valuable. So we're looking to bring more of those to the future when we go to Singapore and then Berlin. We're looking to have more of these types of sessions in both of those venues. The other thing that we've been doing, instead of quarterly, we've pretty much been doing it at our town halls. We did one outside of the summit structure, but basically bringing in the town hall thing, getting people online, getting people interested in what's going on in the building domain, trying to solicit feedback, which we've been able to bring some of that feedback into the steering committees to actually have a look at what might be upcoming projects from other chapters and so on and so forth. So we're pretty much doing a town hall as part of our last session at the conference at each summit. So those are particularly helpful. And I think with that, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I wanted to give you a flavor of it. And I'll hand it off to Rob now to talk about the use case management tool.
So, as Dave has introduced our projects, I'll take a moment to explain how we're looking at to share them using the use case management tool, or UCM. Let me share my screen with you. So the use case management platform let us document and share best practices in a way that's accessible for the whole industry. One example is this use case for OpenBIM for daylighting design and analysis. Well, let's take a look how this is set up. As you can see here, there's a description section, gives an overview of how OpenBIM methods are applied to improve daylight design in buildings. The readers can get a clear idea of what this case is about. Then we have the life cycle phases. As phases that show the different stages of that the project addressed based on the ISO 22263 standard. That knowing the life cycle stages help practitioners to quickly see where they can apply the insights with their own work. Then we have the scope session. So the scope session is important as well. It specifies what the use case covers. Here, daylighting simulation, not for general lighting design. By being precise about the focus, users can see if it fits their needs, right? And then we have the precondition sections, the section that lists conditions or limitations to be aware of, like previous project requirements. Well, this helps to understand where and how they might use this approach. So by structuring our use case this way on use case management, we are making our knowledge more widely available and encourage operations. This supports the spread of open BIM standards across the industry, helping professionals apply these practices effectively, and we believe that from the building domain, we should really contribute there. Thank you very much.
I'm going to ask the construction domain to give a quick update on what's going on. Who's leading on this? Is that going to be you, Jorge?
Yes, I will explain, but we have the full crowd of the committee. There is Ken also from Kajima. There is also Constantinos from Subinstrava, Verico from Bexel, and Ricardo from Ferrovial. I think they are all together also in the meeting. Okay, let me just share my screen. Just let me know if you can see the screen.
We can see it. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, very well. Thank you very much. Okay, well, an update on our construction domain. Okay, one of the important things is that the domain has been. I joined the domain, I guess, 2 years ago, more or less, a year and a half, and the steering committee has been changing or adding new members, like me, like also Ricardo. And I will explain later. There is also a newcomer in the team. So the group has been growing and rearranging and taking care of the different topics. So I think this has been very quite interesting. Lately, or during the last year, after the summit in Norway in Lillestrøm, so we decided to go for an endeavor of writing or creating a white paper for the community of that is working in construction. A lot of professionals we know that they know something about BIM, or even the ones that are practitioners, but not everybody is facing a lot of challenges, let's say. And also a lot of small companies, for example, medium-sized construction companies are maybe the ones who are more struggling to take over the use of BIM for different reasons. And so we wanted to bring all this, let's say, reality or context, and giving, let's say, hope with the use of open BIM standards to solve some of the issues. So we created, let's say, we are basically in our final stage of this of the white paper that we titled "Embracing Challenges and Opportunities of Using BIM for Increasing Efficiency in the Construction Process." And the title, it speaks by itself, but the idea is that it's not easy, but there are of course advantages, a lot of advantages for the construction companies to adopt BIM, and then there is where we, let's say, kind of debrief the different standards, all the process of that is currently led by buildingSMART, and we discuss about also solutions like use cases. There are 3 use cases that are in this white paper, and also that we explained during Marrakesh. We did like a pre-released we spoiled the white paper on purpose, of course. And 3 use cases, like a national football stadium project in Serbia. We talk about the open BIM benefit and workflows during construction process, and we talk about of course the CD management in construction phase, and all these different cases that people or construction companies can use during their processes, and they will bring benefits. No? So that was the idea, or that is the idea of the white paper. We presented, as I mentioned during Marrakesh. Ken and myself, we were present in Marrakesh, and the rest of the team was attending online. It was a very fruitful session. Additionally, okay, what's happening? There is, as I mentioned, we have been growing having changes in the steering committee from people with experience and also newcomers. This time we have accepted, or well, we have not accepted. We are very happy to have Scott Beasley from Australasian chapter, which also give us a quite interesting geographical scope. Okay, Ken is part of the Japanese chapter, and then having this Australasian chapter, it will give us also more participation from this part of the world, and will help us also to have better projects and advance in our next endeavors. The plans that we have currently, it's tied to the next Singapore summit. We're working on planning and organizing the sessions. Okay, as I mentioned, taking advantage of our presence now within the team in this part of the world, and trying to encourage the Asian chapters and let them know that we have a lot to offer. I mean, overall from the buildingSMART Summit, and of course from the construction domain also. Also in let's say kind of next work is use cases during construction phase. Is part of our white paper was in fact talking about the need of having more use cases, or having use cases during construction phase, which are, I would say, challenging, let's say, because they are kind of dynamic and also changing and for different reasons. But then we need to improve, and also to give more information for the use case management system that there is currently in buildingSMART. We hope that we can improve this system, and the idea is with these new cases that we can provide or that we can gather from construction phase, can help to improve this service in the buildingSMART webpage. And of course, last one is kind of not a challenge, but a desire also. I mean, that we can collaborate with other domains. We were participating also during some of the sessions in Marrakesh, where there was kind of sharing between different domains, what was done. We're trying to provide ideas, but then we need to move forward to concretize or which are the projects that we can really collaborate with the other domains. I think that's all in all. If there is anything else that maybe the other members from the steering committee may suggest or comment, I mean, we are open to listen, or any other questions from the rest of the domains.
Nice. Yeah, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay.
Richard, sorry, can I just ask a question about the last comment about the collaboration with other domains? So it's one of the things that we maybe struggle with a little bit, because you've got, some domains which are fairly narrow and focused, in depth in a particular sector, versus others which are more cross-cutting. So is it a structural problem that perhaps is holding you back, or is it just now a case of saying you've had those initial conversations, we now need to find those tangible projects to collaborate with other domains? So, is there something we can do as BSI to make that better, or is it now just a case of leaving the domains to find those touch points where you can have collaborative projects?
Well, I would say that maybe from the second part, because all the different domains are linked anyway to construction. Everything needs to be built. Okay? So there is a
your sound is gone.
Sorry.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. No, thank you. No, I was about to mention that it's more on the second part, as you mentioned, Clive. because okay, at the end of the day, all the domains, I mean, any structure needs to be built. Okay, so everything will pass through construction phase. So I don't think it's gonna be difficult to find common problems, let's say, or things to collaborate with with the other domains. But I think this is what maybe the challenge, to what is meaningful to work that may be more scalable to the other domains, because we cannot tackle many things, no? So we need to basically define what would be our collaboration, or what project specifically may make sense for us to put energy, and that can involve the other domains also.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Jorge. I mean, it's probably one of those areas that we'll keep having to revisit. So I'm happy that I think we've got the structure right for a lot of the projects, but the big sticking point perhaps is how you get the best out of these different types of domains. And we're constantly evolving the domain model, bringing new domains in. ISU5 will bring a different dynamic as well. So maybe it's just something it's a cry for help perhaps, that I think we need some input and views from all of this group on a routine basis as to how we get the balance right. But thank you.
Oh, no, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for mentioning the Singapore summit as well. We haven't got that on the agenda deliberately, just because there isn't time, but it is on the Miro board, everybody. So if you've got suggestions and things that you want to collaborate on, agenda items for the Singapore summit, please add your thoughts into the Miro board. And the link to the Miro board's in the chat earlier on. Laura put it there. Okay, so we're now going to hear from the electrical domain, and I'm going to share my screen.
Welcome to the future of building design and electrical innovation. At the heart of every modern building, there's a complex network powering everything that is connected to the electrical system. These electrical systems are the lifeblood of any modern building. From power distribution to automation systems, they drive everything from lighting to heating, ventilation and air conditioning, HVAC, ensuring efficient, safe, and adaptable operations. Behind these systems is the electrical domain at buildingSMART International, driving the digital transformation of the built environment. In this domain we are shaping the future of the built environment through open standards for electrical design and engineering. The electrical domain, established through the initiative of the listed domain members, is at the forefront of this transformation, paving the way for smarter, more sustainable buildings. We're a global team of innovators, uniting electrical professionals, software developers, and industry leaders to reshape how electrical systems are designed and managed in buildings. Our mission is to create a seamless connection between electrical systems and the entire life cycle of a building, from design, construction, and operation, to demolition. By harnessing the power of open beam and the industry foundation classes, IFC, we're making buildings more efficient, adaptive, and sustainable. Our focus is on low and medium voltage power distribution, ensuring that buildings not only operate efficiently but adapt to future needs. BIM allows us to create a digital twin of a building's entire electrical system, from panels to circuits. This digital twin can simulate system behavior, identify potential issues, and optimize the design for better performance. In operation it is used for simulation, real-time monitoring, and proactive maintenance. The result? Increased efficiency, reduced costs, and a future-ready infrastructure that's adaptable to evolving demands. In our domain we work to support all aspects of electrical planning, including load calculation, where BIM can be used to calculate the electrical load of a building, taking into account the different types of equipment and appliances that will be used. As well as system design, where BIM can be used to design the electrical system, including the sizing and placement of electrical panels, distribution boards, and circuits. And think about material and cost estimation, where BIM technology allows for precise material and cost estimation for electrical systems by utilizing the 3D model and project data. This enables project managers to plan and budget more efficiently. Not to forget the coordination, where BIM can be used to coordinate the work of different trades, such as electricians, plumbers, and heating, ventilation, air conditioning contractors. This show that the use of BIM in electrical design and engineering projects has revolutionized how projects are managed and executed. With open standards and tools, the electrical domain at buildingSMART International is driving innovation, ensuring that the buildings of tomorrow are sustainable, efficient, and adaptable. The advantages of implementing BIM in electrical projects significantly surpass the challenges, offering organizations substantial improvements in project outcomes, such as lower costs, enhanced quality, and greater stakeholder satisfaction. As technology advances, the adoption of BIM is expected to grow, solidifying its role as an indispensable tool in the electrical design and engineering industry. The use of BIM in electrical design and engineering projects has revolutionized how projects are managed and executed. Without electricity, there is no smart building. And without electrical engineering, no electricity. For the electrical engineering trade, this means providing the vital power supply, and possibly visualization for the building management system. Electrical engineering is thus becoming the backbone of modern, electrification-based infrastructure. Planning offices, electrical planners, system integrators or service electricians now need BIM know-how to stay in the game. The door is still open for all businesses to survive in the market. Yet this requires timely rethinking. Join us in powering the buildings of tomorrow. Join us in shaping the future of the electrical trade. For further industry insights, please download our domain white paper, offering expert analyses and perspectives on the trends affecting our industry. Visit us at buildingsmart.org/electrical, and discover how you can contribute to a more connected, sustainable world.
We see your screen.
So,
thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. So, hi all. So, just a short update from the infrastructure domain, some successful endings, and then some new beginnings. Thank to Tim who helped to put together the presentation. So, this is kind of the cooperation between me and Tim. But unfortunately, Tim couldn't be here today. But first, once more. So I some good big endings. We are still kind of in the position that IFC 4.3 has approved as a final standard, and it's now part of the ISO standard as well. So this is still till the end of till the beginning of this year. So kind of almost not a year old announcement or achievement yet, but still something that reflects a lot to what we should do next, because I think the vision is clear. We as an infra domain, together with the railway domain, should implement the IFC 4.3 to the kind of business as usual stage where it isn't yet, but hopefully it will be in the near future. Then some current active project under the infra domain. So of course we have the IFC tunnel. It's now approved by the stakeholders, and it has been submitted for the SDTE for review, and we are hoping any day now to get the final approval for the tunnel project, but it's kind of almost in the end. Then we have the infra extension deployment, so bridge test instruction, and we have already submitted the kind of the test instruction, and then we are awaiting BSI advice for the next steps. It could be also that, for example, the bridge test instruction is the project that where we test the use case management service, so how we can utilize that in these type of deliverables that I hope to see more in the future. Then there is the question mark with the ports and waterways phase 2, kind of that how it will be merged with the emerged tunnels project and maybe some added properties. And it has been quite many years now in the infra domain project list. I think it's not a active project in the way it's kind of the project that is well, in the hold at the moment, so we need to wait to see that what's going to happen next with the ports and waterways phase 2, and keep in mind that there is the maritime domain as well, so how to do the collaboration with the other domains. So I think that the key questions for quite many domains today. Then there is also the proposal for the high voltage power transmission. It's kind of under review at the moment. The stage, it's supported by the infra domain, but it's still waiting kind of maybe to more stakeholders to join in, and then we need to see that if there is some needs for updates for the project proposal. And then there is the asset operation handover proposal, that there was the first stage that was done under the infrastructure domain, and now we are looking a bit more the future steps for the project. So this was also the project that was initiated in the beginning in the building domain, and then as an infrastructure domain we find this super interesting for us as well. So now it's a question mark how maybe to move forward within some of these projects or the project proposals. So currently kind of we don't have any that type of active ongoing project in the infra domain. They are kind of almost every project that we do have are waiting something, so approval or maybe more stakeholders to be involved, or then maybe some other domains to join. So kind of in the past we used to have a lot of active projects, but now we are in the situation that we need to a little bit rethink that what should be our goals in the near future as a domain. For that purpose, we created or updated our roadmap. So we have had roadmap in the past, and then we updated it. And then during the update work of the roadmap, we established working groups. So we have at the moment currently 4 active working group. One is the IFC for infrastructure. Then we have the IFC and GIS working group, BSDD for infrastructure, and the application of IDS in infrastructure. And all of these working groups had a short presentation in the Marrakesh summit, just to give the overview where they are at the moment and some updates about the possible deliverables that these working groups are going to produce. But it's still like it has said before here that it's pro bono work, so it's very much depending on the activity of these members of the working group, and then that's the reason that we didn't want to put any strict deadlines for the working group works. Instead, we give the independency for the working groups to define the timetable and deliverables, so it would be maybe comfortable for them to deliver it as well. But these are the working groups, so they are open for anyone who is interesting, so anyone can join. So if you see something that you might find interesting, or you might find something that are interesting in your own maybe country chapter, just please just send me email or John email, so then we can link you to the right leader of the working group and ask she or he to add you to the contact list. Then in the Marrakesh summit, there was also some ideas for the short-term needs. So the vision is clear for us. We need to implement the IFC 4.3. But at the same time, I have a feeling that we need to improve the knowledge and understanding the needs from the users. So maybe define infra-domain business needs, or put it to the other way around, maybe the better usage of the use case management service. So currently we don't have any use cases in the use case management service as an infra domain, and this is something that we would like to challenge the industry to create those together with us. because I think that the industry network is pretty good in infra domain, but still because people are living in the different time zones and because it's mainly the pro bono work, if we give it some flexibility how to create these use cases, I think that we can create more of them together and then try to harmonize and check that what we should have common in international level and what might be the type of use cases that they are some country specific or even the organization specific. But at least somehow to get the work to be started, so then we have the kind of some concrete next steps. And also in the infra domain steering committee, we have the upcoming election. So approximately half of the infra domain steering committee members are up for election or re-election early 2025. So then there is the question mark that what will the new steering committee look like in the future. Then we have the leadership. So we have the arrangements for the chair under discussion. So like Richard mentioned in the beginning, that I have been leading the infra domain now quite many years, and it has always been in the discussion that we want to circulate the roles inside the steering committee. So that's the reason for making this change. And we were thinking that maybe the election is the good point, good kind of time-wise, that then when we have the new steering committee, then we can decide that who could take the leadership of the infra domain. And then, of course, we also... Yeah.
I just need to push you along a little bit, please.
Yes, okay. This is the last slide.
Okay.
So then this strategic direction, the collaboration and coordination with other domains, we see that critical and a bit difficult, at least sometimes, to organize. Of course, the summits are the good place to do it, but still, it takes a lot of effort to have a good collaboration between the summits. So, thank you.
Thank you, Tiina, and thank you very much for your time chairing the infra domain. You've really managed it through a period of huge development, and it's now going into a new phase of these new working groups responding to, refreshed industry needs. So thank you. Okay, I'm going to push on quite quickly because we've got a lot to get through still, and I do want to make sure that we have sufficient time for the practitioner module at the end. I'm going to skip the electrical domain because it's a recorded video. I know it works, I've played it through, but I'm not going to risk it. So it will get put into the pack for you to watch at your leisure. It's worth it. It's 5 minutes long, and it gives a good update. But I'm now going to ask the maritime domain to give a quick overview of what they're doing. Haijiang, are you there? Or maybe Ali?
Yes. Thank you,
Okay.
Richard. I'm here. Okay.
Relative.
So,
you need to share your screen, Haijiang.
Okay, yes. It will appear very soon.
There you are.
Okay,
we need
can you
to,
hear?
yeah, we need to keep it to less than 5 minutes, please.
Yeah, definitely. So, good morning, everyone. So this is Maritime Domain Progress Report. And as you can see from the slide that we're currently running the domain under this organization. As Maritime Committee members, so China Communication Construction Company, Roef has Canadian Ivey, and Cardiff University. So these are the potential scope. So as you can see, it's quite wide, but at the moment we have one ongoing project, which is Immerse Tunnel, and the next possible one is marine farms that we're going to show in one slide. This is a very brief conclusion for the domain and project management. You can get this content from those websites. And monthly meetings, and we're working with BSDD and CDM, collaborating with working group of BIM and GIS, and collaborating with water group, and also respond to the Tiina's presentation. We're working on the port and waterway stage 2, and finally we are now at the stage that we can start to proceed this port and waterway stage 2. And we're also working for preparation for the accelerator program for Singapore Summit with CCCC. And we're also working on the white paper for the open beam for maritime domain. And so these are the current outcomes that we have achieved. We published those domain charter and the roadmap already online. So it is publicly available for review. These are the live documents. We're going to adjust that according to the new requirements coming in. And there's one project currently ongoing in Mostana. I'm going to explain a bit more. And the next one, we're expecting sea farming. So this is a charter. This is a roadmap. And this is a 3-year strategic plan. They all published online. So you can have a look to get more details so we can discuss more while in Singapore Summit next year. And this is ongoing first project, Immerse Tunnel project. These are the project delivery team. So you can contact any one of those. At this stage, we just finished the first stage is project draft project working plan. With all our working partners, these are the working packages. And currently, we are focusing on 3 use cases on Zhuhai, Macau, Hong Kong, Immerse Tunnel, and another Immerse Tunnel projects, and Monaco offshore extension. And of course, we are calling for more participation. And the next one is for potential next project, sea farming. These are the briefing for that projects. And we are now currently working on the finding more potential partners. We keep on talking to, we're trying to talk to Syntec, as you can see, if we can see that Syntec. And these are the brief intro and ice links. And we're also talking to the subsea. And last week, their CEO visited Cardiff University. We're talking to their, according to their requirements and their potential interests. And we're also talking to Portugal chapter, and there's a company's motor in Portugal that potentially could be our partner. We also reach out to talk to more universities, TU Munich, UCL, and Tongji University and Dalian University of Technology. And hopefully by the Singapore Summit, these new partners could attend and present their work. Okay, back to Richard. That is everything from Maritime Domain.
That was very succinct. Thank you, Haijiang. Yes, some really good work that's been done in that domain. Really good charter, really good roadmap, and a good start to the draft project plan for the Immerse Tunnel. So we look forward to working with the team and the expanding team on delivering that, and indeed the rest of the items on the roadmap. Okay, let's go to my screen, and I'm going to ask Michel from the product domain to give us an update. Are you there, Michel?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, okay. Richard.
Do you want to share your screen? Or do you want to use...
Yes, I share my screen. I did slight changes. Let me try. Okay. If I can do this. There it is. So you see it?
Yes, we see it. Thank you.
Perfect. So I tried to make it fast. So it's about product domain. There you see the heads of the people that are active in the product domain. So we'll not leave a lot of time here. So that's a product domain approach. But on the other hand, that's probably a slide that was here in by accident, because that's of course not the approach we have. That's the approach we have. So what is important is here on the right side, something we always think that is underestimated, so that we start with specification. And specification is the basis of product evaluation, and objects can stay long-term on the design and subject to further change, so that the product comes in later. So that is quite an important part that we try to really take care of it in the work of the product domain. Then, of course, we have all the European product regulation that is important. then all the product life cycle and the circular economy that becomes more and more important with performance of the products, but also sustainability, security, traceability, and tracking. And what we try is to really open a little bit the mind into the overall processes, because products are not only part of design and build. So we try to have a broader scope on business requirements, also concerning purchasing, for example, logistics, engineering, research and development, and so on and so forth, that are quite important processes for manufacturers and are important and also in the cooperation with the building and construction industry. Good. What we try, because we are struggling a little bit in really making out of activity proposals projects, so that we are too weak in the steering committee. So what we try is really to open ourselves to chapters and their domains, so specifically product domain, so that we use social media channels over BSI community, that we offer and also focused calls. So that's all, unfortunately, still future. We could offer the deep dives on request, on-site workshops, eventually also in the regions, and then also give some guidance to the chapters concerning BSI standards and tools. But what is the probably most important part is really leverage these best practices from mature chapters to other chapters and bring in chapters into the steering committee work. So we know that there are a lot of ideas, activities, even projects in the chapters, in the product domain in the chapters, that would eventually be very interesting to leverage and also internationally, and there we could support. So we have a little bit the idea that it is too disconnected what we are doing and what is done in the chapters, and we could generate more power in working closer and better together. So what we are in a way is that we really collect the chapter leaders' contact information and then try to get in contact with them to find out which chapters have product domains. Then invite these leaders to cooperate. And we are on the way, so in progress is Poland, Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. Planned is Benelux. So also here the community, if you have these kind of contacts, if you know people that are in local chapters and specifically in product domains, let them know that we are interested to rise these cooperation to become more powerful. These are the activities we are working on. So on one part is this governance of data domains. That we see as a cross-domain activity. So goal is to get an informal paper, kind of a recommendation, and that we need a kind of a pilot approach, most probably with a life cycle assessment data dictionary that is already in buildingSMART data dictionary, and then leverage this pilot by local chapters and product domains to get an idea and also feeling what is it all about of this governance of data domain. So if everybody does something within the data dictionary and there is no governance, that eventually will force then conflicts. Then we have an industry report guidance for manufacturers that is almost ready. So finalization is the end of this year. Publication should be before the Singapore summit. Then we had 2 projects approved. It was ISD for products. Well, that's wrong. It's now open BIM for products and information lifecycle information. We were not successful to make projects out of them because we didn't get the support. We were not able to find organizations that fund it, at least at the start. So one part is that we really think this collaboration with chapters and their domains could help here, but also that we merge the 2 activities into one, so to edit a concrete advice for manufacturers at the end of the day. Also here, I have the impression it could be a cross-domain activity because we go over all these processes also outside of design and build. And then we have an activity with this cooperation with IDTA, so the Industrial Digital Twins Association, could also become a cross-domain activity. There we are just in evaluation, what they are doing and how we could really connect and profit from each other. So what is really the value for each side. That's it.
Bravo. Yeah, a lot going on. Always a pleasure to join in the on-site meetings with the product domain.
Not only because of the beer, I hope.
The fizzy drinks always help, Michel. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry that this is turned into a bit of a race, everybody. It's my fault. I should have probably allowed more time for this summit, but I'm now going to ask the railway. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. I'm going to ask the railway domain. I'm going to ask Eivind to talk to us.
Yeah, I will have no slides for you, Richard. So
no slides. Okay.
So hopefully I will make it a little bit faster. Thanks for sharing the members of the steering committee. So for the last year, we just finished the IFC rail project this spring, and now we're focusing on making a new roadmap. And the process there is led by Stefan Reiser and with help from Joachim Canis and Franz Josef, who just left us. And they're doing a great job there. A couple of the main topics there is both connection between BIM and GIS, and also maintenance of the IFC 4.3 standards, because we will use that in the railway sector for a long time, even though we will have obviously 5, we will use it, so we'll need to maintain the standards as well as looking into new standards. We also have the railway station projects, which is also part of the roadmap. That we had a survey out that's been taken down and will be refined to make it to simplify it. Hopefully that will be up again before New Year's. And we already started planning, more or less slowly planning Singapore Summit. I think that's more or less a short summary of what we do now.
Yeah, indeed. And there's a new podcast out, isn't there, which you're speaking
yes,
of? So
it is.
Should check that out. If you've got a 50-minute train journey, go and listen to the podcast. Yeah, thank you, Eivind. The station project is going to be very important, and it will link into other aspects to do with passenger interchange, such as we're seeing in the airport domain, but also, the occupant movement analysis piece of work that we saw earlier. I think will have huge with the stations as well.
That was a really good presentation, and all railway not only stations but railways in general, fire safety and movement is very important at all time.
Indeed. Okay, thank you. The regulatory domain is the last one that's going to present today before we get onto the practitioner module. Franco, are you there?
Okay, thank you, Richard.
Do you want
to move the slides for me? Thank you. Okay, just first of all, maybe it's the first time I'm running this role as a chairman for this of this domain. Very happy about this. Thank you, Nick, for all you have done in the past and you will do in the future, because you fortunately are still in the steering committee of the regulatory domain. Just a couple of things about what we are living in this moment. We are really living a regulatory momentum. We have with the beginning of next year and the end of this year, we have some digital building permitting active implementation in Estonia, Finland, Dubai, Singapore, and also many cities are piloting this innovation. Some of them are already running the digital building permitting through OpenBIM, and so this is very exciting for us. There is also an institutional use of OpenBIM that is growing around the world. There is a global IFC. There is a fantastic document that has been written by the chapters. It's a global IFC mandates document. And also we've seen that there are some institutional approach to IFC also in countries that are not reported in the document, like Canada, and some countries in Latin America, Portugal, Italy, and some others. Just to focus a little, just to have an idea of what is going on, we have 4 projects full running in Europe. 3 of them are financed by the European Community, European Union. Many of them, we have seen many projects in Asia, and also we see that there are many networks that are growing to deal with this topic. That means one very famous is a unit for digital building permitting here in Europe, and the least but not last, the European Open BIM Forum. That is a new organism, the new group that was built by the PSI European chapters. So accordingly, I just say buildingSMART is absolutely up to date on this regulatory momentum. See what happened in the last summits, and see also what happened in the last Asian summit in Hong Kong. And we also have a growing regulators ecosystem inside the buildingSMART. And what is regulatory domain current activity trying to do to follow what is going on? Of course, first of all, we are reviewing and monitoring what is going on, especially in electronic permitting implementation and projects. We are also trying to, we are also working hard on making regulation fitter to be used in automated compliance, or support the effort of doing this in some countries, or with us also with some academic, many academic supports. And all this is giving us the opportunity to enhance our collaboration with the regulators. We have been involved in the Finland mandate, and we had also some very strict activity with Scotland, Wales, and the England institution, but included funding some of our projects. Next, please. Okay, our work schedule is you see that the main picture, the main part of the pictures are related to our 2 projects. One is guidance for regulators, and the others is regulatory information requirements. The first one is a document that has been written to develop and communicate a BIM strategy to the regulators that are not so close to our topics, to our arguments. And why the RIR project is a very technical project, it's a typical technical project. It is working on IFC properties for building permits. Next click, please. Okay, the good news is both are completed, and both of them are available. The document are available in the case of guidance for regulators in the link I'm putting in the chat in this moment. And for the regulatory information requirement, you can find many, you can find the BSDD and other parts of the deliverables that are available. In the meanwhile, what we have done as a regulatory domain, we have continued our, let's say, not low level, but is our regular activity in of open houses that are open events, but free open events in which we invited especially regulators to attend, and it has been quite successful because many of them we have had the opportunity to contact many people in the regulators, in the regulatory bodies through this activity, and you can find down there a playlist. Okay, everything is okay, but let's go next, please, Richard. The question is now what the regulatory domain will do in the future. What are our strategic, and we started a strategic review of what we are going to do in the future. This is being started with many contacts with the other domains. So we had also some sessions during the summits that have involved in the building and in infrastructure domains too. We also had some discussions about what is going on. What can we offer to the other domains for this activity, and why we are what we are keen in this moment to reach? The first, we have some lesson learned and something that can be helpful for next action. We are still in a brainstorming activity in this moment. So the first thing is that public organizations are moving towards open BIM everywhere, as we said, but they do it in different ways and with different speeds. And this means that sometimes probably we should widen our offering in following them in what is going on. And this means to ask the other domains what they are noting, what they are seeing that is happening. For example, we think that it's very important we broaden our horizons, and we start talking about IFC for document archiving, or something like, especially for public asset maintenance, or also some very, I don't know, very.
Put you on, please, Franco.
Okay, okay. This is this is our activity. Our next steps will be, of course, talk with you. Any contribution to this brainstorming is welcome. That's it. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. Very, very good work on the regulatory domain, and I would encourage everybody to read the guidance for regulators, which is receiving lots and lots of reposts on LinkedIn, lots of likes. So yeah, well done, Franco, for leading on that. I'm now going to move on to the professional certification practitioner module and introduce Marina and Hans, who hopefully are both sitting there in the audience waiting to go. So let me stop sharing my screen. Are you there, Marina and Hans?
Yes, we're here.
Excellent. So we are finishing in 25 minutes. So you have, let's say, 20 minutes, which gives us a little bit of time for questions, or we can always come back to you at another time. But please, I'll let you introduce yourselves and take it from here. Thank you.
Are you sharing?
And we see your screen.
Hans, are you sharing?
Oh, yes. I thought already, but
no, we did see your. We did see your screen.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, you can start, Marina.
Okay. So, dear domain leaders, welcome everyone to the closing part of your conference, and thanks for staying online with us. Today, Hans Hendriks.
Marina, I'm sorry to interrupt. Now we don't see your screen. I'm sorry.
Hans, could you please share?
Yes, I shared it again. Stop.
It disappeared.
We just saw a white screen.
What about now?
Well, I'm only seeing a white. Now we do.
Yes, we do. So, and Hans Hendriks and I, we are proud today to share with you some details about Open BIM Practitioner. It's a new curriculum of professional certification program of buildingSMART International. For quite some time, professional certification program was limited to foundation curriculum, which is actually a qualification program. Entry level was added recently, but today we are presenting a new certification program which is developed for practitioners. So those people, those persons, professionals who are not limited to basic knowledge in Open BIM workflows, instead to those professionals who possess some skills and practical experience in application of buildingSMART standards and services. Hans, next slide, please.
Yes.
This is the way how we are going to structure our story today. First, I will give a very brief overview of the curriculum and its key features, and then Hans will focus on content and technical aspects, which might be mostly interesting for you. And then we reserve maybe a couple of minutes, 5 minutes for your questions. Next slide, please. Firstly, what's most important for you to know that Open BIM practitioner content is fully built upon buildingSMART standard and services and structured around core Open BIM process. So it is not about general BIM. It's not about general BIM management. It's all about buildingSMART standards and services. Secondly, we have included all latest developments of buildingSMART. Everything that you can see on this image, all those logos in one or another format were included in the content of the curriculum. Sometimes it's in theory, sometimes it's training content, sometimes it's in exam, whatever is applicable, and it is determined by the maturity and level of implementation of one or another standard of service of buildingSMART International. But it was our goal to include everything what is available now. Even though it's maybe not too much in the practice yet. So another important moment is that international core content, which is developed, which is ready to use, is released and now as one curriculum without any focus on specific roles, profiles, or functions. Next slide. Okay. The next key fact about the program that Open BIM Practitioner, it is training and certification program. Although it is for practitioners, but there is obvious knowledge gap in the market, and there are so many new developments that training as a component became essential part of the whole program. Training is delivered via a network of registered training providers. More or less, this is the same framework which we had with Foundation. It is training providers located in different countries. They develop courses which are aligned with our developed learning outcome framework, which is based on body of knowledge, which we also developed within this curriculum development. And in addition, as a training materials, we also developed and we are passing to the training providers training exercises and data sets, which might be useful for this organization, learning organizations. Another important moment about this certification program is that one of the key goals which was set for this program development was to ensure full compliance with ISO 17024, which is a standard about certification for persons. So while designing the certification program, we strictly followed the requirements of the standard. 3 criteria were established as certification prerequisites. It's foundation certificate, at least 2 years of practical experience, and completion of Open BIM practitioner training, and one of registered training providers. And the last point I would like to mention is that international core content was designed for universal application globally. And because it's grounded on buildingSMART solutions, it can be utilized as is. So it's practically can be used now. But additionally, national chapters can supplement the core content with national specific material, so that will help make a certification more relevant to local markets. We also developed framework how to do it and how to arrange it during the training and exam. And now with that, I would like to hand over the mic to Hans to cover technical and content aspects.
Thank you, Marina. Yeah, the content for Open BIM practitioner Actually, with the help from the pilot chapters in Germany, Austria, Italy, but also the technical team, Celine, of course, but also the experts that we had interviewed, we defined the learning outcomes. I will show you in a minute more in detail what's in there. But from the learning outcomes, we developed a body of knowledge. A very important, new, recently published source for that was the PCert handbook. It's very valuable for us, but also other references like websites. And so we used in this body of knowledge. That body of knowledge is a confidential document. It will be provided to the registered training providers, as well as the training exercises. Also, in a few slides further, I will show you to get an impression of the training, but it's mainly to train all the candidates, also to prepare for the exam. And as Marina mentioned, the data set itself, it was prepared. The content in the learning outcomes, I will not mention all the topics, but they are structured in 5 modules. More in the general OpenBIM knowledge, then the requirements definition, OpenBIM data production, then the model check and validation, and then in the end, communication, collaboration, and management. So it's a kind of workflow, as many of you will recognize in daily practice as well. The OpenBIM dataset, it was developed with the idea to have a cartoonish-wise dataset that can be used in training as well. We have a variant, an alternative for the exam. And the OpenBIM principles are there, so they can choose the software that they want to use. It's universal. We noticed also that people like that. We had already a lot of reviewers, but they liked that they gain knowledge from other domains. It is used for practical tasks and questions, and it's performance-wise not so heavy, so it's doable. And as I said, the registered training providers can use and build on top of this new ideas, new tasks, new questions, etc. So a little bit more in detail. It's built up with discipline models. There are several versions available, so from 2x3 until 4.3. And there are also a lot of features inside it. So to explain zones, for example, or what's in the system, IOC system. But it's built up with tiles, as we call them. Tiles for the building domain, but also for the infra domain. And it's also with the idea that we could later build on top of that more tiles and more examples. So to emphasize again, like Marina said already, but it's both. It's a training, but also a certification program for practitioner. And as Marina said also, it's mentioned to train also all the new standards. As I see also today already in this meeting, there are a lot of new developments to train in a universal way to use these standards and services of buildingSMART. Training exercises, to just give you an impression, this is the training exercise. They have to federate models, but to do also a quantity takeoff. How many columns are there, how much beams are there, etc. Another training exercise is more about filtering and also report topics to BCF file format. And this can be used during the training. In the exam, there are a similar tasks as well. Exam consists about questions and tasks. They are different levels, so some of them they are just knowledge-based, but also analyze, evaluate in the Bloom taxonomy. The core content, the international exam, will take 2 hours. And it's on the qualification platform on Moodle. And the types that we are using are different types of questions. So there are multiple choice questions, but most of the questions are like here an impression. You have to drag and drop something, or you have to send in something, upload stuff as well. And we are working now with the technical team on if the candidates are publishing the BCF files and IDS files, they are reviewed automatically. Just to give you a glimpse, this is also the last slide about the examination. So it's on the Moodle platform, slightly the same as in the foundation, but now with 2 hours for the core content. But their most important thing is they have to download and upload files. So they have to download files, for example, and to see how much misalignment there is between the discipline models, or to upload an IDS file or a BCF file. And yeah, they can see how much time they will have in 2 hours in total. So this is a glimpse of the exam itself. So then we come to a question and answer opportunity. Back to you, Richard.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, super quick. Fantastic. Right. Questions then. Let's have a discussion. Who's got questions for Marina and Hans? Who's going to do the exam? I'll start off with that. Who's going to do the training and the exam? Nobody.
Oh,
there we go. John. Is that you are going to do the exam because you've raised your hand?
Yes, I'm going to do the exam, Richard. Yeah.
Well done.
Training firstly.
I mean, Marina and Hans, you've got the trial running in those 3 countries. How's it going down? What feedback are you receiving? I see Peter's got a question. Do you want to do that question first, and we'll go to Peter?
Richard, are you asking about the results of pilot countries? Yeah. Actually, the pilot phase, I think, was very successful for the pilot countries. They understood the market needs and they presented solid materials. Just the problem is that the content was very much shaped for the local markets regulations. For those countries, they had standards already in place. Sometimes it's even laws, and they arranged that their programs very well matched to the market needs, and it made it not scalable, what I must say. That's why we developed this universal core content, so that it can be applicable in any country, because it doesn't contain any national specification of profiles, of roles, or building codes, anything, but it allows for additional content to be added to make this joint, maybe a dual, what we call dual certification, more applicable to the market. So from one hand, it will be pure international, it will contain all buildingSMART content, but in addition, it can meet the needs of the country. So why do we normally need pilots? To check, to test something, and we have some outcomes, we have our lessons learned, and I believe in those countries they will be able to separate it, take the international core and add on top what they have already developed and use it efficiently.
Okay. And Peter Lawrence, you have a question.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, are you collaborating with universities for this? Because this is what we do. We run courses, and we can integrate these into, say, a master's course or something, a kind of unit like this, and make it part of a certification for a course. Is that being considered?
It's the whole ecosystem around the certification. As we said, it's training and certification, and we start with training providers registered for this program. And as we know, in talking with the different chapters now, in many countries, it is universities who are going to be these training providers. So all this content will be passed to them after official registration, and they will be free to build their content on this basic stuff, basic materials, and then afterwards, then the graduates, the students of these courses or training programs will just sit certification exam if they like. Definitely, universities are going to be important participants in the whole program.
Okay, so would you provide like an accreditation for a course? So for instance, we could put a course together based around this, and then we would would be good if something like from buildingSMART would say this course is accredited or meets the standard or criteria.
Absolutely. This is how it works, actually. This is how it works. This way. So first chapter should in the country or region should register with buildingSMART, say that in our territory there might be an interest for this certification program, and after that they invite training providers for that, and all materials are passed to training providers and courses are developed, and then it all works as a whole ecosystem.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so if we were interested, we could actually contact and start the process off.
Yeah.
Okay, that's brilliant.
Marina, I'm not sure you were here at the beginning, but Peter is from the University of Greenwich. And speaking of universities, Professor Haijiang Li of University of Cardiff has a question. Haijiang.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Marina, for this interesting introduction for this advanced IFC training. So I was wondering, so if we, as a training provider in UK, to provide the training service for other countries, say in China, do we need to go through China chapter to do this? Have we to register there?
So normally, if you are located in the country, and if in your country there is a chapter registered, you should apply to them. So I would say encourage you to motivate them to address and to register for this program. And if I may now, I have three action points for you, dear leaders. I'd like to use this opportunity since we are together. First of all, we are currently meeting with chapters, and we would like to use this audience. We'd like to use you to invite to speak to your chapters, to spread this knowledge, just to ping them and say, guys, there is professional certification, new curriculum. Why shouldn't you get additional information and sign with buildingSMART on this curriculum, because this will start the process. So chapters will learn what is expected from them, because it's a bit different compared with foundation, because as it is certification program, training and certification itself are separated. So it's very important for chapter understand the resources needed and zones of responsibility, and we would like to welcome as many chapters as possible now to learn what and how it is organized, how the whole program is built. So if it's possible, please address your chapters and motivate them to talk to us and to learn more information about it. Second item is actually we are reestablishing subcommittee for practitioner. So if you would like to become a member, or you may know people who are good candidates for being a participant of subcommittee at the moment when we implementing it in chapters, helping them make this very smooth launch of this new curriculum, please also just send your candidates, or maybe initiate some activities so that your representatives are included in this work. And the last one, maybe the most important for me, again, it is practitioner. It is just first curriculum, international core content. Let's look at it as at the core, maybe looking from your domain's perspective. Look, maybe you will see that new content, new programs would be nice to have. New educational and certification programs around your specific domains are good to have. Look at it as strategic direction. So now we have infrastructure. We know how to do that. So just come with us. Let's speak about maybe your domain is already ready to have specific certification for professionals in your domains. So from me, it's just a call to action to you.
Well done. Well done. Thank you very much, both of you. We will encourage people to get involved, and obviously to do the training and adopt it in their various regions and chapters. We have a few minutes left. We are going to finish on time. Closing comment from me before I hand over to Clive is just to thank you all very much. We did get through the agenda, sort of. I should have made the meeting longer. but who knew we had so much to talk about. Please use the Miro board. It's the best way I can think of to get a conversation going between us to make sure that the domains do understand what's going on in each other's areas. And we will be reviewing it. So Clive, over to you.
Right. Thanks, Richard. I think it's always good practice. Finish when people still want more. Better to bow out that way. So I take it as a good sign. Look, only two messages really. I mean, first of all, thank you, because I appreciate, actually, unusually we have a number of people now changing over in the leadership roles of the domains, and I really do want to recognise the very long service and commitment and impact that so many of you have had over the years. Some of you now stepping back and allowing others to pick up the baton, others of you continuing. But as Richard said at the start, this is your community. This is what makes the community. So genuinely thank you so much for all of those contributions all of you make. And the other point is, I think this has actually reinforced for me that this is a really positive, exciting time in the domain world. And if I think back a year, we had been having a very different conversation because, we didn't have IFC 4.3, we didn't have validation service working in the same way, we didn't have the practitioner PCert module out, etc. So for the first time since the summer, we have now got that full workflow available for you to use, and therefore the domain role is shifting from, in the past where we've had to use the domains to build these international standards, we've now got them. We need to improve them, that doesn't go away, but we have got them and we can use them. Hence what I'm seeing is already the domains now swinging around to say, okay, I recognize my role is requirements capture to improve them, but fundamentally the application of how do we use these standards and services to really impact my sector, my business, my industry. I could see some really good projects coming to fruition in terms of the guidance, the knowledge capture. I thought there were some great papers being published recently. So I think domains as a collective have really found a way to add impact quickly through that knowledge capture and guidance piece. I think maybe where it was a mixed picture for me was some of the domains have clearly managed to find a way to get the application of those standards and services in a very tangible way. Airports, fire safety are good examples, but I've also heard from others of you that you need that support from different domains because actually you're transcending lots of different sectors, and I have a niggle that we haven't quite got the mechanism right for helping you get those projects running when you need support from multiple domains. So I can see huge opportunity when we do, because you've got those foundations of the standards and services. I think, Richard, there's a challenge for all of us here about how we just help go a little bit faster with some of those cross-domain projects. But otherwise, I thought that was hugely reassuring that we're now swinging behind these new processes. It should be quicker. You've got more authority as domain leaders to actually take decisions. You've got less bureaucratic hurdles with the SCE, SCTE, etc. to go through. So I think we should see a real acceleration of these projects over the coming weeks and months. And signs are positive. But the Miro board's not densely populated. If you have thoughts after this in terms of what to improve or how to tackle that cross-domain coordination, please let us know. Email me or Richard, dump it in the Miro board, etc. But thank you again. I think we're on the right path here. It's really positive. So it's how do we unlock this to go a bit faster over the next few weeks and months until we meet again. Richard, back to you, please.
Thank you. That's it. Bang on time.